We're about a month removed from something West Michigan hasn't seen in a while, a blizzard. But looking back to the 70s, the blizzard of 1978 came in at a bad time because there was already snow on the ground. Bill Steffen certainly remembers the blizzard of 78. He's talking about it with us today. Bill, give us some background on this storm.
Well, this was the most significant event that we had during my 48 years of forecasting weather here in West Michigan. Started out on the 25th, which was a Wednesday, and it started snowing. We picked up about 2.5 inches of snow by the time we hit midnight. And boy, when we hit midnight, it really cranked up. We had 13 inches of snow in just 12 hours. And it wasn't just the snow, it was the very strong winds. The peak wind gust in Grand Rapids at 46 miles an hour blew the snow into horrendous drifts. Most of the drifts were 3 to 6 feet, but I literally stood on a snowdrift that was 14 feet high. Of course, in that time, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers, and people had nothing to do but just stay in their homes. Schools were closed for anywhere from 5 days to as long as 2 weeks before we got everything open again. National Guard was called out for this storm, and about the only way to get around was on a snowmobile, or just putting on some snowshoes or trudging through the snow to get where you were going. We had about 19 inches of snow total from this event here in Grand Rapids, but as much as 52 inches of snow fell over a 5-day period over in Muskegon County. 4 roofs collapsed in the Muskegon area, including part of a Meijer store over there. There were 400,000 people without power. And keep in mind, this storm produced blizzard conditions across most of Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, northern Illinois, and also southeast Wisconsin. So we couldn't call in power crews from other states to help restore power here. Wing Stadium in Kalamazoo became a shelter for people that were stranded on the roads here. And you know, it wasn't just this particular snowstorm that caused some trouble, but keep in mind that after the snowstorm, we had additional snow, plus we had the coldest February we have ever had, and the 5th coldest March. So there were snow piles from this storm that stuck around, boy, all the way until early April. 100,000 cars in Michigan were abandoned. Most of those were in southeast Michigan over toward the Detroit area. Cleveland had a wind gust to 82 miles an hour. Can you imagine that? And this was part of some very brutal winters that we had between 1976 and 1979. Muskegon's season snowfall during the winter of 77-78 was 165 inches. There were 71 fatalities blamed on the storm. Quite a few of them were from people trying to shovel the snow that was so heavy out there, and heart attacks. So boy, beware of that when we get a heavy snow around here. And for you weather junkies out there, we had the lowest barometer reading ever in Grand Rapids. In fact, the barometer reading got all the way down to 28.22. There are some hurricanes that don't have barometer readings that low. So indeed, this was a monumental storm 45 years ago, the blizzard of 78.
We have a picture of my house that we're going to show, and my mom tells me that she walked over the chain link fence in the backyard to eat with the neighbors. She was stuck home alone with me as a baby, and our neighbors, she ran out of food, so they fed her.
Okay, my first thought on that is, Emily, you can't be that old, okay?
Oh, Bill.
Really, seriously. But that was really an incredible storm. I have a chain link fence in the back, and I could walk over that as well. And it was that way for days before we got everything done. Snowplows couldn't get through the snow, and that was another hard part. We had to call in front-end loaders, these scoops, to come in and get through the drifts. I think it took 5 days to get the road open between 131 Expressway open between Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo.
Talk about the difference in tracking a storm like that and what we have now to track a storm.
Oh, it is so different. Back in those days, we had an Alden fax machine that gave us weather maps. So we had that up on the wall. We also had teletypes, and a teletype is a combination between a telephone and a typewriter. They were really slow. We had to hand plot weather maps. I sat there, and it would take me about an hour to hand plot weather maps. And that was one of the best tools we had back then to actually see where a storm was going, to actually see the difference in air pressure. We could see where the storm was headed. But that's what we did. Nowadays, those maps plot automatically. One of the interesting facts I want to share with you here is, in terms of forecasting, the mid-range is where we've really improved forecasting. The forecast 5 days out right now is about as good as the 2-day forecast was in 1970.
So, Bill, we love reminiscing with you about these weather events that have happened through the decades here in West Michigan. Thank you so much for joining us from the Man Cave.
We will continue to relive major weather events in West Michigan's history every Monday, only on News 8 at 4. And you can also watch our conversations with Bill at woodtv.com.